And my name is Anna Locke. I'm the Director of Clinical Content here at Networker. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about the conversation we're about to have. I'm joined today by Connirae Andreas, who is a psychologist who has contributed widely to the field of personal development for over 4 decades. She's been a leading trainer in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and has and her contributions have helped to define and broaden the field since its infancy. She's most well known for her work in developing a method called core transformation, and more recently, she's developed an approach called the wholeness work. Today, we are going to talk with Connirae about the experience she has had working with people in Ukraine. Connirae, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anna. I'm so glad to be here.
Great. Okay, so let's dive right in. Please tell us a little bit about the important work you've been doing.
Okay. First, I flinch a little bit at the word important, but but I'll do this. I'll take your invitation. I think it remains to be seen how important it is, but I think it has the potential to be really important, really valuable, which is why I'm so glad to be here with you to talk about it. What I've been able to do so far, 2 different groups from Ukraine have contacted me, reached out, and asked for support. And having heard about the work that I do. And one of these groups is therapists, primarily therapists, but also some others in the Kharkov, in the Kharkov region, the city of Kharkov. So, and then another group is more all around Ukraine. They're people gathered together, ordinary people, the followers of actually a famous Ukrainian musician. And this musician is a wonderful man, and he's kind of stepped forward to try to offer we could say mental health support, especially meditation support for his fellow Ukrainians. So I've worked with the first group 4 times, 4 different set meetings, and the second group just once. Excuse me. Let's see if my voice wakes up now. It's earlier here in Colorado.
Yes.
Anyway, so I joined these groups because we do have, my team has access to some leading edge methods that I think can change and really add to trauma work. Trauma healing work, but more than that, do more than that too. So my first question with the first group was, what is your biggest need? And because I didn't want to assume that I would know.
Right.
And so they shared with me several of them. The common theme was, we're frightened.
Of course.
Which, yeah, exactly. Of course, who wouldn't be? They were saying, we're listening to the sounds of guns and blasts outside, even as we're talking. We're frightened. We look at the news, it makes us scared even more. And difficulty sleeping, not knowing if loved ones are okay or not okay. Now, this was several weeks ago, this first meeting. So things were in an early stage then. Now more has happened. But what I've noticed, though, in working with this group over time is that their biggest need wasn't to deal with trauma per se, a trauma response as we usually think about it. It was more dealing with anxiety and fear because we're right in the middle of the event. Things are unfolding. And it's not like there's some trauma, it's happened, it's in the past, and now we've got to heal from it. We have to somehow manage our day-to-day lives, and we're freaked out. Can you help us?
Right. And that is what was so intriguing to me about the work that you were doing and when you were doing it. Because it's different than how we typically approach trauma. Like, the traumatic events are still occurring, and we're not waiting, or you're not waiting to help until all of that's over. You're helping now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's one of the unique things. This is perhaps the first crisis where we've been so globally connected, where we have this opportunity, and Ukraine's internet has amazingly stayed functional. So we're able to connect with people from here to all around the world, but including in Ukraine. It's really amazing that we can for the first time support while it's happening. So yes, the wholeness work is particularly good at this kind of thing. The way I described it to them, because I didn't want to they don't have much time. They've got to be dealing with survival, making sure they can eat, making sure they're safe as possible, under the circumstances, to at least do their best. So I guided them through the experience several times and I said to them, what this is about is giving each of us a way to find peace on the inside, even when there isn't peace on the outside,
Mm.
and that's what it does. And one man said, I guided them through the first time, and one man said, I'm having some difficulty with this because I'm trying to do this, but I'm hearing the sounds of the guns going off right outside, and it's very hard. And yeah, exactly. I was kind of feeling too like, oh,
Yeah.
I really feel for you in this position. So I just shared, I want to acknowledge you are in the most challenging situation to learn this method. The wholeness work helps people find peace on the inside, even when our life circumstances aren't great, but being in the middle of a war unfolding, I just want to acknowledge it's the most difficult challenge, but let me find out if we can do it, together. And by the end of that meeting, like really a few sentences later, he was there and he was going, okay, I get it. I can do it, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's what the wholeness work gives us, a way of dealing with even intense situations unfolding like that. It doesn't cut us off from them and we're not in la la land where we're pretending like it doesn't exist. But if someone is in a crisis situation, in a war zone, or in another kind of crisis situation, that's, if anything, where we really need to be able to relax and sleep at times. We need to be able to let go of the hypervigilance and the alertness, and let ourselves relax, deeply relax, let the nervous system reset so that we can have a chance, so that we can do our best.
Yeah.
And so the wholeness work helps people do that. It helps reset the nervous system, come to this place of calm and peace within, but to do it in a way that it keeps us integrated with reality, with what's really happening, so that I think it really provides like this dual results of peace inside, more clarity about what's going on outside, so that we're actually more able to find, if there's any solution, I'm damn well going to find it,
Yes.
It's like it's easier to see the solutions if there are any. And sometimes to be realistic, sometimes there aren't. But
Right.
but oftentimes there are at least some solutions or partial solutions or a better way to go. And we can more easily see them when our filters are not, if we're not looking through glasses that are colored by our fear,
Hmm.
or other kinds of reactivity, then it's easier to see possible choices.
Yes. And I love what you said about like that you're going to do your best to try. You don't know, but you're going to try. And I know for myself, I've thought about what I can do, and I've kind of stopped at that. Like, oh, what can you do until it's over? And that does not have to be the thing that shuts us down. We can try. We can put
Yeah.
ourselves out there and do our best.
Yes, we really can. And I was noticing for myself, yesterday, I took some time to read more news of what's happening in Ukraine also. And it's awful, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It's awful what's unfolding there for some people, not everybody in Ukraine, but it's really close. For those who aren't right there in the middle, they're close. And
Mhm.
so I was using the process myself and just in my own meditation. And it's very simple and very effective to come to this place of deep peace that includes our reactivity.
Mhm.
So So the man that was going, I'm hearing the gunshots and it makes me frightened. I'm having a difficult, we include this fear response in what we do. We don't try to bypass and just go, okay, let go of that and just be in the moment. No, we include the fear response with the wholeness work.
Right. And to that point, I would love to hear a little bit about what it looks like. Like what might be an example of something you might do with the group?
Oh, wow. Now, to really guide you through, I'd love to, but we would need a half an hour to do
Right.
that, to do just that. So what I want to say is that, yeah, Anna and I talked about this ahead of time, and I've agreed to offer um, three free bonus resources that will do what Anna's asking. So you can get a free PDF of the Wholeness Workbook. I'm going to just make that available. We've been making a lot of things available free because of the Ukraine crisis, because our feeling, myself and my colleagues, we feel like we have these methods. They can provide something unique and really deeply healing and transformative. And we're just going to make more stuff available right now and just trust that we need to make this free. So for
Yeah.
2 weeks, we made a lot of things free. and for this group, here's what we're giving away right now, because I'd like to make it available to more people who will be helping people in Ukraine, helping people whose triggers maybe are triggered by what's happening in the Ukraine and need something that works a little better, a little more complete. So there's the book, the free PDF of the book. The full book, it includes the first 2 wholeness methods. And what those will do is help us. We start with present moment experience. So I can just notice I've got a sensation in my body, or I have a voice here that goes, oh no, or whatever is my present moment experience. I start with that. And then to just give you a very quick glimpse, we go to finding it's hard. I can't get it all across. It's derived from a spiritual teaching that it's possible to be in what spiritual teachers call an awakened state if we dissolve the ego. And ego meaning, when spiritual teachers talk about the ego, it has a different meaning than when psychologists talk about the ego. But when spiritual teachers talk about this, they're talking about being able to access a different state of consciousness that isn't constrained by anything, really. It's not constrained by what spiritual teachers might call the small self. So I began thinking about that and wondering if there's a step-by-step way that I could help myself and other ordinary people like me access the kind of state spiritual teachers describe, because it sounds like a good thing. It's this being able to really find the peace within, even if there isn't peace without.
Yeah.
And so the key to that was finding what we could call the ego, but then doing something that we could call dissolving the ego. And rather than just in concept, to have it be simple steps. Like if I see a sandwich on the table and I'm hungry and I want to eat it, I have to know where the sandwich is located first. Then I have to know a simple process to get it into my mouth, to chew it, swallow it, and then I'm going to be satiated. Well, it turns out awakening isn't much harder than that. You just
Wow.
you just have to know the steps. And the first thing is, just like we have to know where the sandwich is located if we want to satiate our hunger, we're going to need to know where the ego is located if we want to dissolve it. So what I do is have people start with an experience. I know I'm going really fast here. Start with an experience. Let's say I have this fluttery feeling in my gut. And then I go, okay, I am aware of this fluttery feeling in my gut. So we could say the ego is the I, if we want to go back to the concepts. So I just ask people, it doesn't help for me to have the concept that I want to digest food. And it doesn't help to have the concept that I want to find the ego. I need to know where the food's located. So the same thing in the inner world. I need to know where the ego's or the I is located. So I ask people, where's the I that's aware of the sensation? And then it might be you get weird answers, and I'm going quickly, but everyone can find an answer, especially if I take a little more time to help people understand this. And so I might go, okay, the eye right now, it's right here. It's to my left. It's about this big. It's almost invisible. I can find it. And then from there, if I want to eat that sandwich and have it satiate me, I have to know the right steps. I don't just grab the sandwich and hold it close to my heart and press it inside and think that's going to work. And yet, a lot of our change work techniques are the equivalent of that, I would say. It's like we know the idea. I want to get satiated, so I've got to do something with the food. So let me press it to my chest. I'll hold it close to my heart. Maybe that will work. That we get it right away. That wouldn't work on the physical level.
Right.
So in the book, you get the steps, and they're pretty simple. Once you learn to do it, you can do it in 5 minutes. It takes longer to learn it, but once you understand it, you can do it quickly, just like it doesn't take long to eat a sandwich, And so then you get the steps for how to actually dissolve the ego that work. And so this is something that I've now tested with myself, with clients, with groups, with many groups now. The book is published in 3 languages. It's translated into many more. People from around the world are picking up on it. And it's interestingly enough, it's devoted students who've been touched by the results, who are taking it upon themselves to translate the work into other languages. So we have it in Dutch, it's in Hungarian. I believe we have, and the whole thing is in Spanish. The book is in Japanese and German and English. So it's spreading because people are experiencing the results. And so I get excited about it because I see the results unfolding. And I've just been meeting also with my advanced group of people who've been through all the trainings, and they're in the consultation group with me, and they're introducing themselves the other day to each other. And one of them says, why I'm here is because this has changed my life, more than anything. And so that's what can happen with this. And the spiritual teachers, like Ramana Maharshi from India, other spiritual teachers, Eastern spiritual teachers have this theme that an awakening happens through dissolving the ego. And for them, when they describe it, it's clearly not about going to la la land. Like many people who've come to me from a spiritual tradition have told me, I've done meditation for years, I've done mindfulness, whatever it is, and it's been helpful to me, but it feels somehow separate from my life, and it hasn't transformed or healed my relationships or my past issues. So with the wholeness work, and I believe the true spiritual teachers meant it not to be like that. They meant it to be something that changes our consciousness and changes how we live our daily lives. So that's what the wholeness work is all about.
Wow. Well, it's so fascinating, and I think it's so incredible, and I'm sure everyone would agree, to offer these resources for free right now because it's so needed. And so to have this available to our viewers and to other folks, I think that's really incredible. I'm confident that some of our viewers, many of which are around the world, are curious about how they might be able to get involved if they would like to contribute. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts about that?
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you for those of you who are sharing some of your responses too. I really appreciate that. Yes, there are ways to join in. We're trying to make more room, more possibilities. So I think the free gifts we're already offering are the book, the PDF of the book, plus there are 2 intro videos. One is this core transformation work, and then the next one is one is the wholeness work intro, and the other one is the other method, which I call core transformation. And that one has been around longer than the wholeness work. Both of those, you can watch the intro videos just free. And then we have, if you want to be more involved, there are more trainings. We have video trainings, streaming video trainings. We're producing them right now, more of them, because trying to make more of it available in a streaming format so people can watch from anywhere at any time. But we also are scheduling live online training. So we have a very international group of students. And I personally, I love it, that aspect of it. I love it that when we have a training and here are the people from Japan and the Philippines and from China and from Hungary and from Germany and from the UK and then also, of course, from the US and from Canada, South America, from Argentina, Australia. We have people even from Australia when they have to join in the middle of the night.
Right.
We try to schedule it so we can meet the needs of people as many places around the globe as we can. Yes, and at our website, andreasnlp.com, you can see many ways to get involved. And if you don't see a way that would work for you, you're welcome to ask us a question. And we're doing our best. And I want to mention that besides our immediate company group of colleagues, we also have a network of people that we have trained over the years, and they actually initiated another volunteer service. Some of our trainees said, war is going on in Ukraine. We want to help. We want to do something. So they have put together a volunteer-free sessions for people directly impacted by the war. Mm. And so this is something else that then I'm supporting that, and my colleague, we're supporting that by offering them backup consultation. So we do that for them for free. They do the sessions for free. And then hopefully we can be able to provide services. There are so many refugees right now. A colleague in Poland just told me there are 2.5 million already in just Poland.
Wow.
Right now. And he said right now, many of them are able to talk to each other for psychological needs. They can support each other quite a bit, but we're expecting to have more who need some more trained services, more trained help as time goes on.
Yes.
And so we're getting our volunteers ready to be able to do that.
I think that's wonderful, and how fortunate that we have the technology now globally that we can help from right where we are.
Oh, yes, that's such a good point, Anna, because the ability, we can volunteer our time, and then through Zoom or whatever we're using, FaceTime, whatever someone uses, we can just connect without having the extra expense of flying over and then requiring somebody to pay for our room and board while we stay there. It's really amazing that we can offer some help from here, from where we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. So go ahead, Connirae. Sorry.
I was wondering, Anna, if you would like me to get into, we've talked a little bit about the difference between a trauma response and anxiety fear response. And I'm wondering if you would like me to share a little bit how I think about the 3 stages of trauma healing also. Would that be of use and interest, do you think?
Yes, that would be really helpful. I think that's really what helped me to really understand the difference between the work that you're doing and what happens post-trauma. So why don't we spend a few minutes on that, and then we'll wrap things up.
Okay. The way I think about different people have their own 3 stages of trauma, I think, or who knows, 5 stages, 10 stages, whatever. I think about it based on structure and based on what I now know is possible, which I wouldn't have known 20 years ago, or even 15. Since the wholeness work, I understand more about what's possible. So the 3 stages of trauma healing, I think, unfortunately, we will be seeing more of a straight out trauma response that the longer things go on. They're just more bad stuff happening, and so, but I think the good news is that with the kind of healing tools we have access to now, I'm hoping that we can be there to support the people who have the unfortunate circumstance of having to go through it and help support them in a healing and recovering, and so that we can interrupt what often becomes a cycle of violence, where people who are traumatized often end up more, it becomes a cultural cycle of violence and so on. And I think if we can interrupt that and heal the harm and hurt that has been done to groups, to cultures, this can really help us as a global human community. So when we're dealing with trauma, I think about it as 3 stages. The first is getting to a place of safety. So stage 1, the person who's been through a trauma wants to get to safety, and people right in the middle of it are trying to find a place to safety and can't find it necessarily on the physical level completely.
Mhm.
So the wholeness work, which I talked to you about, it helps people find psychological safety, even if they can't find the physical safety. That is a plus, but it's not everything. Um, so it's reaching that place of safety. People who attempt to do it on their own tend to try to just, okay, I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to try to forget about it. I'm just trying to move on and try to disconnect with it in a certain way. And that generally doesn't work very well. It's got several big downsides. It generally for one thing, just cutting ourselves off from it doesn't really heal it. So a person who tries to do that are subject to flashbacks, triggers. Something might trigger a memory, and then suddenly, oh, it's as if I'm there again, and it's all awful. I've got this awful memory. So, and the other thing is, if someone attempts to really cut themselves off from the memory and the experience, it tends to lead to a certain amount of deadness inside. Like we're less available to our own physical bodies. We are less able to use even our gut feelings as a guide if we're trying to cut ourselves off, separate from ourselves a little bit. We're less in tune, perhaps, to be able to use signals to know this is a dangerous situation. I want to get out of here, or whatever. So that's the first stage is that. So effective methods will help people find that place of safety. And in what I find particularly helpful for that stage is the method core transformation. It can do that. It can start with the experience of trauma and take people very quickly to the experience safety. And another method that works is in NLP, they're the fast phobia trauma cure, and it's also been researched as the RTM protocol with some modifications. It's showing very, very strong results in that first phase of just dealing with the trauma response. So it takes care of flashbacks, triggers into distress states. It does that. So,
Wow.
so then there's stage 2. This is the deep healing work. Just dealing with the trauma response doesn't take care of that. And by the deep healing work, I mean all the emotional responses that any of us human beings would have if we went through a traumatic experience. At least most of us would have these kind of responses. They would include sadness, grief, emptiness, anger, sometimes a feeling of guilt. Why did I survive? There can be a feeling of shame, of worthlessness. Various feelings can be triggered by a traumatic experience or develop. I'm just going to go through a list: hurt, betrayal, fear, anxiety, hopelessness, despair, judgment of self or others. Sometimes going mental, retreating into the body, overanalyzing. Inauthenticity, people-pleasing, habits and addictive behaviors can arise from a traumatic experience. So all of these and more can be really healed in a deep level with the core transformation method. And I don't have time to go into what that method is and why does it do that deep healing, but that's why I'm also giving this free resource. There's the free it's about 70-minute video that you can get. And Tamara Andreas, who's the co-author of the book, she will guide you through several steps. And there's a demonstration of her working with a client. So it gives quite a bit of information on that video. And
Wonderful.
I want to share one example of somebody who was suffering from PTSD. This person, my sister and colleague Tamara Andreas, she was teaching core transformation in Asia, and at the workshop, a man came up to her in tears, tears streaming down his face, and he said, "I just want to thank you for giving me my life back."
Wow.
And she said, "What do you mean? Can you explain?" And the backstory was this man had been hospitalized with PTSD a number of years earlier. And his PTSD was so extreme. He had been a successful professional, but his PTSD was so extreme, he couldn't function professionally. He couldn't function much at all. So he was hospitalized, and it was considered that that was his sort of a life sentence. There would be no cure, um, given the extreme nature of his symptoms. But one of the psychiatrists or doctors that he was working with knew about core transformation and referred him to a therapist that knew the core transformation method. So this therapist guided him through core transformation, and I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but how many sessions, but he was better. As he put it, he had his life back. He got out of the hospital, he could go back to work, normal life again. So
Wow. That's
so that's
incredible.
and each of us, there are many stories like that with core transformation where it does that phase 1 work of working with the trauma response, but then it goes farther and works with complex trauma responses and the kind of emotional healing. And one of the reasons that it's so effective is that it helps take if somebody says, "I'm angry, this is so unfair, this has happened to me," and that's the big thing we're working with, we can take the part of the person and we could say, this anger, this is a part of you that's angry. The core transformation guides the person with a specific, very precise line of questioning to help that part very quickly get to what we call a core state of being. And that core state, it starts with the question, "What do you want?" But then it goes farther. And the part that's angry might go, "I want justice," or it could be anything. But we take it to deeper and deeper levels until finally we get to this core state. Um, and it's variations of the question, "What do you want?" The core state is always a state of being, like peace or wholeness or oneness, and through the process, the part is able to actually experience the core state, not just have it be a concept. It's a felt experience. And then that is what ends up transforming, often quite profoundly, the original experience. In this case, it would be anger, but it could be anything.
Hmm.
So that's a really, the 1-minute version of how core transformation works, but you'll get a much more clear experience of it on that free video.
Okay.
And,
Wonderful.
and then should I go on to so that core transformation is really good with the stage 2 because it does this healing of the deep healing of the emotions, not just surface level healing of the emotions, but this really deep healing, where often at the end people go, "Wow, it's just, I don't feel that way anymore. It's irrelevant, fair, not fair, justice. It's all, I just feel now I have access to this core state of being and nothing else matters."
Mm-hmm.
So that happens through core transformation.
Wow.
It is a reconnecting with what we could call the self, or even beyond what we might think of as the self, this wholeness. So then there's stage 3. And stage 3, at this one, my colleague Tamara and Mark and I, we were going, okay, what can we know what it is in practice. We know when we're working at stage 3, what are we going to call it so it makes sense to somebody? And the best we could come up with is this deeper healing with more wholeness. So the stage 2 is all about healing what we're aware of needs healing. So if we've got anger, worthlessness, feeling guilty, we know we have that. We know it needs healing. With stage 3, we tend to go to this zone where we didn't even know it was there to be healed. So it gets at, and that's where the wholeness work is really good, because stage 2 is really good with core transformation, and then stage 3 is really good with the wholeness work. And that is because it helps us find what's there that can be healed and integrated, but we didn't even know it was there.
Wow.
So it takes us beyond what we know to ask for. And that is because we're doing this, finding the layers of ego, what we could call the layers of ego, inviting them to dissolve. And yeah, it's hard for me to say it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but in the 70-minute free intro that we're giving you access to, and in the book, you'll understand it. You'll be able to experience it. Some people have watched that free video, and just from that, they've said, this has really opened something for me. And that's just the start. So
that's absolutely wonderful. I love that it is this like depthful, like really getting at the roots of things, and like you said, beyond what even people are aware of is there. Connirae, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to have you back to talk more about how things are going as time progresses. Again, I think several folks who joined us today are really interested in becoming more familiar with the work, getting more involved, and we're just very grateful for the resources you provided. To those in the audience, please make sure that you check out the free resources. Again, there's 2 70-minute videos and a free PDF of the book, Coming to Wholeness, How to Awaken and Live with Ease. When you go to the link, you will also see an exclusive discount for a subscription to our Psychotherapy Network or magazine, only $10 for the whole year, which is awesome. So we hope that you will check us out as well. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thank you. Thank you, Connirae.
thank you so much, Anna. Yes, I look forward to connecting in future events with too.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye, everyone.